What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. I want to take a look at Johnny Dundee for a moment. Now, I've covered Johnny Dundee several times, but I really want to take a look at Johnny Dundee because he's such an underrated fighter. He really is. I have him collectively ranked number 9, along with Benny Leonard and Tony Canzoneri. All three fighters, Johnny Dundee, Benny Leonard, and Tony Canzoneri, I have collectively ranked number 9 in my all-time ranking list. Now, the Scotch Wop Johnny Dundee was born November 22nd, 1893 in Sicily. He died April 22nd, 1965. He was 71 years of age at the time of his death, and he would reside in East Orange, New Jersey. Now, he was raised in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. He stood 5 foot 4 inches. He was an orthodox boxer with a 63-inch reach. And he was managed in the second half of his career from 1920 to 1929. By James J. Johnson. Now, James Johnson ran New York's Madison Square Garden. If you wanted to fight in the Garden, you had to get through James Johnson. Dundee fought Joe Willing in the first main event under the 1920 Walker Law. Now, this law was named after the sponsor, Senator James J. Walker. It was the first positive boxing legislation passed in a vote 30-19. March 25th, 1920. It was under the America's Expeditionary Forces, the ABF. Now, the ABF was a military organization that had Gene Tunney as a light heavyweight champion. And you also had a fighter by the name of Bob Martin. He was the heavyweight champion. And the lightweight champion was Leo Johnson. He was an African-American lightweight that was dominating the lightweights during that era. And they got a lot of the rules because such an organized organization was the ABF. And they thought it would be a great idea to bring boxing back in after Prohibition. So Senator Walker decided to add some of those rules and regulations, and that should get them past the legislative board to organize boxing again. So you can thank Johnny Dundee because he was part of that board for that. Now, he fought lightweight champion, the ghetto wizard, Benny Leonard, 9 times. He was in the ring with Lou Tender 3 times. Lightweight champions, Willie Ritchie and Freddie Welch. That's just to give you an example of some of the opponents that Johnny Dundee was in the ring with. He fought over 330 bouts, 194 wins, 22 knockouts, 60 losses, and 41 draws, 117 no decision, and he was stopped only twice. He had numerous newspaper decisions as well. In his 87th bout, Dundee fought Johnny Kilbane to a draw. Next title shot came in 1921. 264 bouts later, Dundee won on a disqualification to George K.O. Cheney in the 5th round. Dundee became the first recognized world champion, junior lightweight champion in boxing history. 1923, he became world featherweight champion in his defeat of Eugene Creek in France. May 30th, 1923, Johnny Dundee unified the World Featherweight Championship belt when he defeated France junior lightweight Eugene Creek. May 30th, 1923, Dundee lost his World Junior Lightweight Championship belt to Jewish star Jack Bernstein. This was at the Velodrome in New York. It was a 15-round affair. December 17th, 1923, 15 rounds. He fought in New York's Madison Square Garden. And most press spectators felt that Dundee didn't quit. He didn't quite do enough. And the crowd of 13,589 spectators was somewhat disappointed in Johnny Dundee because they knew his capabilities. But you got to take in consideration, this man was in 330 bouts. Now, Johnny Dundee and Bernstein fought once again, September 15th, 1924, 3 months later. 15-round decision, win over Johnny Dundee. And Johnny Dundee never defended his featherweight championship belt that he won in victory over Eugene Creek in 1923. Now, you have to remember, Kid Kaplan succeeded Johnny Dundee when it was Drew from the featherweight championship belt. So Dundee was never the lineal champion. Kid Kaplan was a really, really good fighter. I spoke about him the other day. And he was another underrated fighter. So you have to put him in a list of fighters that Johnny Dundee faced that doesn't get credit as well. And the thing about it is, the junior lightweight division was fairly new. Well, I should say the junior welterweight division was fairly new, but the junior lightweight division had some really good stars as well. Philadelphia Benny Bass was then recognized by the NBA as a featherweight champion. New York SAC didn't protect the division. And after losing a 3-division champion to Tony Canzoneri, October 27th, Johnny Dundee beat Willie Ritchie, who was a former lightweight champion of the world, at Madison Square Garden. And Willie Ritchie was a California's champion. And he clips Johnny Dundee on the jaw, placing him on the ropes. And that's when Johnny Dundee displayed one of the greatest rope boxing exhibitions ever seen. Crowd went wild. And what Dundee would do was take his right foot. He would place it underneath the bottom rope. He had 3 strands at that point in time. And he would hook the bottom rope with his foot. He would place his butt on the middle strand and his neck on the top strand. And he would ride the ropes in rhythm. He would slide, he would dip, he would move, he would turn his shoulder to the left, to the right. He would parry, he would half moon, he would do the shoulder roll and everything on the ropes. And he could do that for 1 full round and win the round. And those who saw that happen told me personally, greatest exhibition they've ever seen. Johnny Dundee was a master of riding the ropes. The referee, Bill Brown, continued to take points away from Johnny Dundee. He wanted Johnny Dundee to come off the ropes, but Johnny Dundee refused, and he wound up winning the round. And Johnny Dundee was a spectacular fighter. I don't have a video long enough to tell you everything about Johnny Dundee. I can only tell you that he was a phenomenal fighter. And if you look at his record, the list of names is amazing. Now, the thing with Johnny Dundee as well, he was arrested on August 2nd, 1916 in New York. He was charged with a homicide after a 13-year-old boy in a car accident. Now, you look at fighters such as Philadelphia Pound Moore. He would have a no-decision bout with him in New York. Eddie O'Keefe and Johnny Kilbane, who was a featherweight champion. Freddie Welch, Rocky, Kansas. Willie Jackson, Benny Leonard, George K.O. Cheney, Sammy Mandel, Joe Click, Charlie Phil Rosenberg, Eddie Cannonball Martin, Todd Morgan, just to name a few. These are all champions. So let us not forget Johnny Dundee, who was a phenomenal fighter. Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. All great fights and all great fighters would never be forgotten on my channel. Salute to the Scotch Wop Johnny Dundee. This entire book is dedicated to Johnny Dundee. He's my rank number 9 greatest fighter of all times. Now, I have Johnny Dundee, 1,000 pages of all of his articles, all of his accomplishments. The other number 9 opponent is Benny Leonard. I have a whole book of Benny Leonard, 1,000 pages. That's 2,000 pages front and back of information on Benny Leonard. And the other number 9 that I have is Tony Canzoneri. I have an entire book, 1,000 pages, 2,000 front and back of Tony Canzoneri. Have the same thing with Sam Langford. 1,000 pages of Sam Langford. 1,000 pages of Harry Greb. Several books of Robinson. 7 books of Armstrong. These are all in my top 10. So thanks for hanging in there with me. Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. All great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Salute to Johnny Dundee. Very underrated fighter. Right here on the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Peace.